sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me.
Good morning. You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz, KSQD 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. I am Catherine Bell, and this is the Dream Journal, a weekly show where we explore the healing powers of your nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with you.
Stars fading, but I linger on, dear, still craving your kiss.
In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Today's musical creation is called Wave From. Not wave form, but wave from. Created live this morning by Rick Kleffel. Dream sharing is a tender business. How do we support each other in owning our own dream experiences without unduly influencing each other? Today we have a conversation with Gerette Buglion about her new book, An Everyday Cult. This is Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. The Dream Journal is also a podcast, so you can look for that on all of your regular podcast places, and also on the KSQD website. You can find it there at ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. So, starting with my personal dream work, the way I always do. And there's a dream that I've been, interesting. Okay, you never know what's going to come up in my mind. So what's up in my mind right now is a dream where I was outside my childhood family home, and there was like a chain link fence across part of the front of it, and the gate was open, and my dog was running into the chain link fenced area, and there was these bugs coming out. Ugh, just like swarming. And I run and grab my dog and slam the gate shut. So for me, there's something here about maybe, could there be something here about leaving behind some of my my family issues? We all have things that we learn from a young age, and sometimes we kind of blame our family for that, but maybe there's we're all doing the best we can. I know that, and so there's some way that maybe I can leave behind some of these things. And I never go into the house. I've had lots of dreams about that family house of mine, which I grew up in, and I had a good childhood. I really did. But there were certain ways that I just didn't get the support that I would have loved. And maybe I'm letting go of that. Like maybe I'm learning to kind of pull my dog back, and close the gate. Like let that all go behind me. And maybe I don't have to go into that anymore. Whew, what a relief. My goodness. So today, as usual, I will be inviting call-ins during the last 20 minutes of the show, so you can get ready for that. The number, in case you want to write it down, is 831-900-5773, and I'll be opening the phones up in about half an hour, or you can email me at any time, and the email address is onair@ksqd.org. That's onair@ksqd.org. And the number again for when we open the phones in about 30 minutes is 831-900-5773. So today our guest is Gerette Buglion. Hello, Gerette.
Hello there, Catherine. It is so wonderful to hear your voice.
Yeah, so good to have you here on the air. So this is Gerette Buglion, and her new book, An Everyday Cult, shows how her innocent quest for meaning was hijacked by a teacher who, recognizing Gerette's thirst for spiritual knowledge, awakened her insight while simultaneously eroding her capacity for critical thinking. The cult she was involved with for 18 years used dream analysis as a controlling technique. Her cult recovery process over the last 7 years has included creating new and gentler ways of exploring dreams. Gerette is passionate about promoting ethical forms of self-discovery, and we'll be talking about some of those new, gentler ways of exploring dreams on the show today. Hello, Gerette.
So good to be here.
Oh, and I do want to say that Gerette's webpage is GeretteBuglion.com. That's GeretteBuglion.com. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, there is some way that we all have a quest for insight, and we all want deeper meaning in our life and to find a sense of purpose. And these things can be exploited. It is true to say that we don't always find our way to clear sailing right away.
Sometimes we go through some pretty convoluted experiences before we get there.
Exactly.
For sure. And if it's okay to say kind of right up front,
Yeah,
Catherine,
sure.
I just want to be transparent about the fact that it's the dream journal is this, beautiful exploration of dreams, and here I am coming in talking about a way that dreams were used in a negative way. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I honestly feel a little like, gosh, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade here. My work, my experience is my experience, mm-hmm. and my work, today is my work, based in cult recovery work. And I truly hope that listeners can, take what it is from today's conversation and really, take what resonates for them and leave what doesn't. There mm-hmm. might be some hard things that we'll talk about, and mm-hmm. sometimes life has hard bumps to it, mm-hmm. and this is maybe I'm guessing this might be a little edgier one than you normally have. I've listened to a few of yours
mm-hmm.
that where I haven't heard this, so I just need to say that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that, Gerette, and I am really looking forward to this conversation. As a dream person, I'm always thinking to myself, how can I support this person who's sharing a dream without, to share my ideas without trampling on their experience. And we're very vulnerable in the place of dreams in particular, and any kind of spirituality, really, I would say, that there's something very vulnerable. And it's something that I'm very conscious of when I talk about dreams, which is, pretty much every day, and with so many different people, is how can I support that person to get the deepest meaning that they're available to right now, without thinking that I'm an expert, without thinking that I'm the one who quote unquote knows what's happening, that I have some kind of authority here. So I really appreciate this topic of conversation, and I certainly had experiences of people telling me what my dreams meant, which really felt bad. So I have definitely had experiences where people said, oh, well, clearly this is X, Y, Z, and this means an issue of this. And that's kind of blatant. But even in more subtle ways, I felt that I've been influenced by people where, they would say something about my dream. I go, okay. But then later I'm like, well, wait a minute. Was that my idea? Or, I don't know if that really makes sense to me. Does that feel right?
Yeah, exactly. And, I think vulnerable is a really good word.
Yeah.
There's this way that I think whenever we're working with unconscious material, where dreams come from this unconscious realm. And if there is someone that, we've given any kind of credence to, because they're a teacher, they're
mm-hmm.
a coach,
Mm-hmm.
they're an analyst, or they're a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very natural thing to, want some help. with our dreams, because dreams can, oh my gosh, you and I sure both know how confusing they can
Oh
be.
gosh, yeah, and your own dream, especially, we have these blind spots, and it's like my dream doesn't make any sense at all. But sometimes speaking it out loud or hearing some feedback, things start to crystallize, but I want to be sure that I'm not being unduly influenced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you use the word blind spot, because I would say that one of the ways that my ex-teacher ended up manipulating me, and I don't know if this was conscious manipulation or not. I truly don't know. That is something that is really only for him to know. But he would actually use the term blind spot quite a lot. And in that way, I just, like in talking about dreams and saying, oh, it's kind of a blind spot, you can't see that deeper meaning. Like, I believed that I really needed his insight in order to understand my dreams. And that, my friends, is bull, you know what. I trust I'm not supposed to swear on, because we're on air, right?
Appreciate that.
It's, no matter how convoluted a dream is, or no matter how convoluted an interaction, a complex interaction we have in the world is, with someone we love or a stranger, we might, yes, we can have our blind spots, but we also always possess within us the capacity to find our way through to what is actually truly happening. And that capacity in myself is what was eroded in the year after year after year after year that I was involved with this particular teacher. Yeah.
So I guess that is a question. So I kind of like to hear a little bit of your background, like in terms of dreams, like maybe before you got involved even with this group. Are dreams something that you were interested in all along, or is that something that you kind of tuned into as part of this path?
As a young person in my early 20s, I started dabbling in a lot of different alternative things, everything from, reflexology to, massage to, just religions, looking at different religions, different forms of spirituality. So dream work was not something that I sought out, but it was something, like my dreams were something that I was interested in before I met this teacher. In fact, I actually was part, for a little while, I was part of a kind of an unofficial dream group with a group of friends. We would get together every so often and share our dreams and kind of riff on them, and it was really cool. It was a fun thing. So I think in a certain way that kind of warmed me up a little.
Right. So you already were interested in dreams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So...
and even today, Catherine...
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, please.
Even today, after so many years of having, manipulation of my dreams and of my soul and my life, I still have a deep respect for dreams. They don't play that active role in my life that they did for so many years, but they are still like a touchstone of accessing some part of me that, like when I'm stuck with something or struggling in one way or another, and I have a dream, that's something I listen to. I'll spend time with it. I might share it with a friend if it's a challenging dream, like you were talking about earlier, Catherine. I'll pick up the phone, or I'll, reach out to somebody and say, hey, can you help me with this? And you're absolutely right that saying the dream out loud to someone you love and trust is just a beautiful way of uncovering, what the dream might be wanting to say.
Yeah.
So I have that unofficial, like a lighter touch with my dreams these days, but a deep respect still.
Well, this is wonderful. I want to get into some of those light touches and how we can do that with each other, how we can hold a space really gently. And but I want to play a little piece of music that Gerette requested, which is a Pink Floyd song from Wish You Were Here. I wonder if you want to say anything about why you picked this particular song, Gerette.
It's really those opening lyrics.
Yes.
Let's play it. I'd love to hear it, and
Okay.
then I'll see if. Let's take it from there.
Fabulous. So in about 20 minutes, I will be opening up the phone, so you'll be able to call in at that point at 831-900-5773. That's 900-KSQD. What have you been dreaming about lately? We are speaking today to Gerette Buglion, and this is the Dream Journal on KSQD 90.7 FM in the Santa Cruz area, streaming live at ksqd.org. And I am your host, Catherine Bell.
So you think you could tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail, a smile from a veil? Do you think you can tell?
You are listening to The Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell, and our guest today is a cult survivor and a dream appreciator, Gerette Buglion. Hello, Gerette.
I love that. Cult survivor and dream appreciator. Nice riff there, Catherine.
Well, I hate to label people, but I want to get the topic a little bit, and
It's good.
something that I always, I'm really religious. I guess it's very safe to say religious because I do consider dreams spiritual. About using the "if it were my dream" approach, and it seems kind of clunky and awkward, but there is something that just kind of gives the dreamer a little bit of space. That if I say so if it were my dream, I might be wondering, because I want the dreamer to have lots of space to feel what I'm saying and see if that makes any sense, if there's a spark or an aha there. And I wonder what other methods that you have found helpful for gentle dream nurturing.
Yeah, I love that. If it were my dream, ... that's something, just like you said, giving a little bit of space. I think that's beautiful. And the other gentleness is, I think, keeping an understanding of the vulnerability of the person whose dream you're hearing. And that vulnerability, to me, really dovetails with those opening lyrics of Wish You Were Here. So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue sky from pain. You think you can tell what I think it's a green field from a cold steel rail, or a smile from a veil. Like we can enter into relationship with each other with believing that we are all equals and we all think the same thing. We all think that, heaven is heaven and hell is hell. And yet the truth is, one does not necessarily have the capacity to know what is what, especially if you are slipping, if there is like a slippage into an altered reality. So if you don't have access to a really grounded experience of self, an experience of, the earth beneath your feet, it can be, very confusing. And if you're hearing someone's dream, you really want to know, like, what does that mean to you? Like, what is your lived experience about that?
I love that phrase. What does that mean to you? That would be a good question to ask. Yes. And what has been your experience? Yes.
Right, what's your lived experience? Like, what is it? You know, how might that relate? You know, the other gentler approach that has been key for me in my healing process over the last 7 years is a really beautiful integration of exploring dreams within the context of also of a Reiki practice. Reiki is just a simple hands-on energy relaxation practice and technique. And you know, just putting my own hands on my own body while I talk about a dream, or while I, you know, remember a dream in the morning, like if it's, you know, not quite coming. You know, the grounding of one's hands on their own body, on their chest or on their belly, that calms the parasympathetic nervous system. That allows one to integrate into one's own body, one's own reality. And I know that in my years and years with my ex-teacher, there were so many times I would enter into a dream analysis session, and I was not in myself. I was disassociated when I arrived.
Right. Well, so often that's what we're looking to find, is to find a sense of groundedness.
Exactly.
Yeah. So say some. I would love to hear some more about. I mean, I feel very tender about this, but I wonder if you could give us some examples of what happened to you. And because, you know, we think of a cult as, you know, living together in a compound and, you know, kept barefoot and half starving and all this. But there's something like the title of the book, an everyday cult, is like it's every day. It was just like part of life. And yet it was very manipulative. And I wonder if you'd like to talk a little bit about your experiences.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Catherine. I immediately, you know, in my mind go to, you know, my very first paid session with, you know, who became my teacher of 18 years, my analyst and teacher, because there was a school also around this teacher. And so in that very first session, I had a dream about a friend of mine who was a dairy farmer, and she just looked terrible. Like she had circles under her eyes. She just looked terrible. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, Pearl, are you okay? What's going on? And she started telling me about her new husband. And in the dream, she had just married somebody and you know, a new husband who was also a dairy farmer, and so was my friend. You know, both of them were involved in you know, dairy farming. And she's talking about him in this way that feels really, gosh, it's funny, I can't remember the exact words. I should remember because I just wrote them in the book. There's this way that it's like she's got these big, you know, starry-eyed look in her face as she's talking about her husband and this beautiful stuff that they're doing together. But it's like this, you know, I now know the term cognitive dissonance, and in the dream there's a little bit of it because she looks terrible, but when she talks about her new husband, she looks starry-eyed. And I have this kind of dreadful feeling in the dream, like, oh my God, he is abusing her.
Oh, wow.
And then the dream shifts, and there's like a beautiful silk purple teddy that's hanging on a clothesline. It's kind of flapping in the breeze. And so this is the very first dream I brought to this, you know, teacher who, you know, has heard, you know, many, 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 many dreams before me. And what he did in this dream, the way that he worked with it, was by elevating the man in the dream.
Oh, no.
So he did that switch of, oh, well, the man in the dream is actually the animus, and your distrust of him is the problem. So, through this work, we're going to get you to be able to, trust this man who is the animus. And in my vulnerability, I had also just shared with him the reason that I had come to him in part was because I had had the kind of a haunting experience of feeling as though I had been sexually abused in the past, but I didn't have any real memory of it. So I also had presented that. And so the fact that he took that dream, even though I had, presented that I had this fear about sexual abuse, not sure if it had happened to me, and turned it in that way, at that time, I left that session feeling elated, feeling as though, wow, I have so much I can learn from this man. It's true. I go into this kind of shut-down place. I jump to assumptions about other people. I judge them, falsely. And I really want to learn this path. But, it was only after I left 7 years ago that I looked at this dream with new eyes.
Right.
And was absolutely horrified, Catherine.
It's like a warning dream almost.
Right.
That,
I mean, the opportunity that could have been presented in that dream, a backstory is that I lived on a dairy farm. Dairy farming was a core part of my identity, who I was and who I am as a person even today. He didn't even know that I lived on a dairy farm for, I don't know, it was at least 6 months. Or more before another kind of farming dream came along, and it's like, oh yeah, But he didn't ask me, what about this dairy farming thing? There were so many opportunities where the dream could have, had he done, what you were suggesting, and kind of these more gentler techniques that we were just discussing. There's so much more that could have opened up in me.
Right.
In a truthful way, in a way that supported my femininity, supported my need for healing. I was also a new mother. I had a 6-month-old baby at the time.
Talk about vulnerable.
Talk about vulnerable.
That was your first child, right?
Boy, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, my first child.
A new era.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a way that this person would manipulate the dreams to elevate himself, really, it seems.
And elevate patriarchy.
Yeah.
One of the questions that really lives in me strongly now as I work with many different cult survivors, you can't believe how many, most of the cultic experiences that I learn about are based in a patriarchal worldview that is distorted, that is actually misogynistic. And, where the feminine perspective is not given room to breathe, room to truly be explored.
Right. No real respect or even the cooperative. I'm thinking the word hierarchical.
Yeah.
Very hierarchical. So there was these dream analysis. I have read your book, and I really quite a page turner. I couldn't put it down.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I
Glad to
was
hear
just
that.
fascinated and horrified too. It wasn't just your dreams that he manipulated, though there was plenty of that. But he used the dreams to manipulate your life, like your
Right.
career and your relationship with your husband, and it was just really infiltrated all different parts of your life.
Exactly. On every level, my business, my marriage, as you said, my working relationships, my personal work, There was no aspect of my life that was not touched in one way or another, by Doug and his teachings,
And
which in and of itself is, an ethical professional violation. He was not a professional therapist, which, red flag, everyone.
yeah, let's talk about red flags. So what are some of the red flags? Because, you had this feeling of excitement, so you didn't have like a gut feeling like, oh, get away right away, even though maybe there were hints in the dream. But, they didn't have that feeling with him. So let's talk about red flags. What should people look out for having to do with around undue influence?
Yeah, I appreciate you using that term. There are many, and as I said, this my ex-teacher was not accredited and did not. There was no organization that held him accountable to any level of professionalism or ethics. So I'd say any time, especially if you're treading into spiritual terrain or terrain of self-help or really kind of going into your deeper work where you're becoming extremely vulnerable to somebody. You want to know what kind of ethics and what kind of accountability the teacher or the organization that you're becoming a part of actually holds. You also want to know, I often tell people to, follow the flow of both the money and the decisions in any organization you're a part of. Who is it that's calling the shots in any given organization? So far we were just talking about my experience with my teacher as an analyst, but he also, this expanded into a whole school and a training and an organization, and it was, became sort of a larger organization that had many tiers and aspects to it, and I thought that I, in the end, was part of the executive committee, which was what I thought was the decision-making body of the organization. Turns out every single decision made in that organization was made by Doug.
Okay.
There was what I call a hidden hierarchy. So if you're becoming involved in a group, to be aware, like really find out. Don't take it for face value. Keep asking, keep querying into, how the decisions are made and where the money flows. Is there an equitable distribution of resources in a way that dovetails with your personal values?
Yeah. Thank you. I love that. Well, I want to say, time is flying by. My goodness. Gerette, this is fabulous. This is Gerette Buglion. And my name is Catherine Bell, and I'm going to play now another piece of music that Gerette has selected called On the Attack by Moon Panda. So you were listening to The Dream Journal. This is K-Squid 90.7 FM, Community Radio of Santa Cruz. We are about to start our last segment, so you are welcome to call in. Max is ready. The number is 831-900-5773, or you can send me an email at onair@ksqd.org, and the number again is 831-900-5773. And we'll be right back with Gerette Buglion and her experiences as a survivor of a cult that around dream analysis.
Who you love.
Okay, this is the Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell, and we are here with Gerette Buglion, and you're listening to The Squid, K-Squid, 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. The phones are now open. If anybody would like to call in, the number is 831-900-5773. You're welcome to share a dream, or you can ask a question. Perhaps you have your own experience of feeling unduly influenced that you would like to share. In fact, Gerette, I would like to talk about your hashtag that you're part of founding, that called the hashtag I Got Out.
Yes. Thanks for bringing that up, Catherine.
Yeah.
And, that is, I am so deeply, passionate about the hashtag I Got Out movement, which is it is a movement really based on people's stories. Mm-hmm. We really encourage people, anybody who has experienced undue influence in whatever form, whether it's from a, kind of a self-help kind of group, therapy group like I was a part of, or a religious group, or has experienced spiritual abuse, or multi-level marketing, or, a really small town, little church, or anything. No matter if you've experienced power over abuse in any form of a group setting, and it can even, there are like family cults too, that, the more we can tell our stories, when we hear someone else's story, we learn something about our own self, and it deepens who we are.
Yeah.
And I had the privilege of getting this, was launched through the beautiful kind of coming together of the work of Sarah Edmondson do you know who Sarah is?
No, I don't. Mm-mm.
Okay, Sarah Edmondson is one of the key whistleblowers of the cult NXIVM.
Oh, yes.
Some people call it, a lot of people know about NXIVM. It was a group in Albany, New York. And Keith Raniere was the leader of that group and is now in jail for 120 years.
Oh, okay.
And Catherine, last night when I was preparing for this, I was flipping through a journal, and you know where my journal flopped open?
Why?
It was to a week before I Got Out was launched, which it was launched through the coming together with Sarah Edmondson and a few other beautiful, beautiful people. But a week before it, I had a dream that Keith Raniere was right near me. I was in a little apartment, and he was outside, and he came up to the window where I was, did this like somersault, flipped in through the window, and then is pointing an M16 at me.
Oh, okay.
And I was terrified.
Huh.
And I also knew that I was close to the door. And so then there was like, the dream kind of shifted then, and there were a few different parts, but another part, he is like sidling up to me, flirting with me. And I look at him, and it's like one of those moments where I like feel my feet on the ground, and I say, I just need you to know, I will never have sex with you. So I just want to share this dream. I would love your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
It was wild that it kind of popped open, but to think that I had this dream right before, it was during the Keith Raniere's trial. So he was in the news. And
was he a cult person? I don't know who that is.
He is the leader of the NXIVM cult.
Oh, the NXIVM. Oh, I see.
He is he is the leader who is, now in jail for 120 years.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I will never have sex with you. Well, one thing that
to have a cult leader kind of appear in a dream, I just want to say it's significant. He was not the cult leader who impacted me, but I have had the honor of working with several people who were part of NXIVM, or ESP is the other name for it. And so I took it in really deeply.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. And it was right before the hashtag I Got Out movement started, or before you became involved with that?
Indeed. And that was like this kind of magical coming together of Sarah Edmondson, who is a lead in The Vow, the HBO docuseries, The Vow. Steve Hassan, who is a very well-known cult expert in the United States. Another friend of mine, Mark Laxer, and a woman who has become one of my best friends since October, who is an anonymous activist. Her name is Lisa. And so when the five of us came together, we founded the hashtag I Got Out. And people can go to the igotout.org website and prepare to be blown away by the incredible stories that are shared.
Well, and stories, telling the story is really a powerful way of like defining who we are and letting go of who we're not, and like telling our story and who we are in that story is one of the ways that dreams have helped me a lot, is to help me reframe my story. And it takes saying it out loud and framing that repeatedly to start to shape who I am. Has been my experience.
That's beautiful. I totally agree, and I think there is that kind of lovely parallel about story. Like there's the uncovering of our lived experience, and then there's like the dreams kind of give us a more nuanced and metaphorical experience that can open us into an even wider understanding of, as you say, who we are.
Right.
So powerful.
Telling our stories, telling our dreams. And I will say, Gerette, since you did ask for feedback, if it's okay with you to share about your dream.
Yes, please.
That one of the things that crossed my mind as you were sharing the dream is, it's just imagining that Doug, the pseudonym you have for the leader of the cult you were in, would have made such a thing about, I'm never going to have sex with you, to talking about how much resistance you have. Oh my goodness. Instead of acknowledging that this is your truth, that I will never make that connection, I will never be part of that.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yes.
Yes, Catherine. What Doug would have done with that dream would actually be to have actually perpetuated a wound, and perhaps even created, a wound.
Yeah.
It's with this kind of the animus being the all good, the all powerful, the animus being kind of the male figure in a dream, that distortion of what, I do believe, I don't think Carl Jung meant that understanding of animus, that Doug taught me, is, in my years with him. But putting anybody on a pedestal is problematic.
Oh, yes. I have had relationships where the power dynamics were unequal, and a single relationship can be very painful when you feel like, really fortunate to be with this person, and yet you never get to make the decisions. You never get to choose what to do next, or
exactly.
Right. So,
exactly.
And what's one thing that's been really floating through my mind during all this is QAnon. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about everyday cult. I mean, there's so much influence there that can happen through the internet. So you don't even need to have personal relationships with people who are influencing you.
Yes, and you don't even have to believe in QAnon to be influenced by QAnon. because so much of the way that QAnon has infiltrated particularly the American conscience, as well as way of thinking, zeitgeist, I guess.
Yeah.
Is through sideways ways. I mean, yes, there are the diehard QAnons, people, but there's also so many ways that same information has, been doled out and infiltrated into, for example, the wellness community.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
The spirituality, there's that wonderful podcast, Conspirituality.
Uh-huh.
If anyone is interested in that, that's a really, really good listen with Matthew Remsky and, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the names of the other people, but it's a very good one.
That's one I listen to regularly. It's the influence, like you said, wellness influencers can be very influential and can create some very bad situations. So,
yeah.
Do you have other examples of resources that you'd like people to know about?
Absolutely. One of the things that did help me early on was an organization called the International Cultic Studies Association, or ICSA, ICSA. And, they are, exactly what it says. It's an international organization. And there's just a plethora of information on that website. Attending their annual conference was something, or continues to be something that has been very helpful for me, to connect with other people. I will say, I also know that a lot of people get out of a cultic environment or a controlling group, or have realized they've been spiritually abused, and they start looking for places and they don't find things that really connect for them. And that's part of the passion that is behind the IGotOut.org website, is to create a space, where we are, like what's happening organically is people are making amazing connections. And they're connections that you choose. Like there's no doctrine, like nobody owns a hashtag, and it's, by looking for the hashtag, for example, if you were part of, say, a Hasidic Orthodox group and you're looking for help, you can use the hashtag IGotOut and kind of look for, read some of the stories and then connect with the people whose stories resonate for you. We did a really interesting thing for a few months where we highlighted stories first from people who were part of the Unification Church, which is commonly called the Moonies.
Right.
So ex-Moonies, we focused on their stories for a while, for like a month or so, and it was amazing. People were connecting with each other, having had similar lived experiences because they were all ex-Moonies. And then a really cool thing happened, which was a few months later, we featured stories about people who had left the Jehovah's Witness church, and it was so amazing because, again, people connected, with each other around the Jehovah's Witness experience, but they were powerfully connected with, for example, the ex-Moonies. So there's like this cross-pollination, and we start to get to see that it's not like, oh, the Moonies were in this world onto their own, and the Jehovah's Witnesses are in a world onto their own, and these therapy cults are something really different. We actually get to see the universality of the experiences.
Right.
And that is so powerfully affirming. to someone who comes out of, cultic abuse?
Well, it must be something about human nature, that we're all looking for someone to tell us what's true and to give us a purpose. And often that can be a very good thing, but it can definitely be abused.
It can be abused. And where learning through each other where that line gets crossed is so helpful. And it turns out another really interesting thing is happening, Catherine, and that is that people who were part of controlling groups or high demand groups, or there's a number of different terms that people use, but they were part of them like decades ago, like 20, 30, even 40 years, 50 years ago. And they're realizing today that, oh my gosh, that group, that thing that I did when I was a teenager or when I was in my 20s or 30s, holy cow, that was a cult.
Okay.
And that's why I still have this kind of icky experience. So people are coming out of, as I said, decades ago, and realizing that they have healing to do. And they can heal, because right now, cult is kind of it's a buzzword. It's in the world all the time now.
It is. Well, and we talk about the influence. I mean, that's part of the whole social media question, is what influence do we allow, and what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, and how do we learn to judge our sources, like especially if somebody's had this experience of being in a cult, and it must be really hard to trust again. And so, my mom used to always say, trust but verify. Like, that was one of the...
I love your mom.
She's great.
I love Catherine's mom. Trust but verify.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep, it's in my psyche. I'm like, okay, I'll check it out, but I'm trusting my gut, but I'm also going to check it out.
Exactly. Oh, I love that.
Okay, so I wanted to just touch in on a writing course that you have called Writing to Reckon. If you want to say a few words about that, I think our listeners might really appreciate hearing about that.
Well, thank you, Catherine.
Yeah.
That is a writing course that I offer for people who have experienced cultic abuse of any kind, whether it's religious or, small group, any of the things we've talked about earlier. And you're serious about, wanting to use writing as a path towards integration. I was fortunate when I got out of the cult that I learned about the work of Dr. Daniel Siegel, who's a neuroscientist and a neuropsychologist.
Right.
And he talks about the importance of creating a coherent narrative. So whenever you've had a traumatic experience, to really take the time to find the words that express what you went through. And that, honestly, my memoir, An Everyday Cult, is a product of that. That's my coherent narrative. And it took me 4 years to write it. And it is so empowering to have that out in the world. I am so grateful.
You got very good reviews. Was it the Washington Post that had a review about your...
It was a big article about it. It was like, holy cow.
Well, maybe you could send me a link. I'll put that in the show page if you like.
Sure.
I would love to do that.
I would love that. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, so it is something that's very much in the air right now, and it's something that we all need to really examine our relationships, and even around dreams, maybe even especially in that vulnerable place. So are there anything else you would like to say, maybe some final thoughts for our listeners, Gerette?
Well, yeah. Well, one quick thing, too,
Sure.
to clarify that I also offer a free Writing to Reckon class that happens pretty much every week for people who are ready to write their #IGotOut statement, but they would like a little bit of support. So people can attend this free class, and you just go to the igotout.org website and click on empowerment, and then just kind of scroll down to the calendar, and then you'll see where you can register for a free class. And it's a really, beautiful experience. And oh my gosh, Catherine, as far as summing up this conversation, I have to say, I'm really, really moved. I didn't know quite how it would go. I was a little nervous, and I am just deeply grateful for your openness and capacity to, to stand in the place that you honor and trust so much in the dream, and also welcome in this conversation. It moves me a lot, and I am very, very grateful for it. And I want to actually close with the words of your mom. Remember, explore trust and verify. Yeah. Right, trust but verify.
That's it. Shorthand.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, thank you. This is Gerette Buglion, and her webpage is GeretteBuglion.com. That's 1 R, 2 T's, GeretteBuglion.com. And the book is called An Everyday Cult. Thank you, Gerette.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Such a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye now.
So next week we will be talking to Jean von Bronckhorst about visitation dreams, grief dreams, and how dreams help people through the end of life. Listen to the live broadcast Saturday at 10 a.m. or catch the podcast replay, which as always will be released on the Monday following the show.
Stars fading, but I linger on, dear. Still
I am Catherine Bell, and this has been the Dream Journal. Thanks for listening. You can find out more about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com, and you can email me at catherine@ksquid.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. If you have a dream you're curious about, do contact me so I can sign you up for that free introductory dream consultation. If you like this show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or tell a friend how much you are enjoying the show. I'd like to thank my program assistant, Max Deaton, and my musician, for Rick Kleffel, creating yet another beautiful original piece of music for the ambient background music. I'd like to thank my assistant also, Carol Milady. So good to have her part of the team. And thank you to all the donors who support this station. You can contact us anytime at ksqd.org. And when you donate, be sure to tell them you are a Dream Journal listener. When you wake up tomorrow morning, take a minute to look within. Do you remember a dream? Write it down and bring it to the next Dream Journal. I am Catherine Bell, and you are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz.
And leave tomorrow